With the new school year well underway, we're already seeing measles outbreaks impact classrooms. More than 150 students, unvaccinated children from 2 South Carolina schools, were originally put under quarantine for 21 days after exposure to the highly contagious virus. Officials say nearly a dozen of those children are back in the classroom now. Joining us now is MSNBC medical contributor Dr. Vin Gupta. Doctor, the quarantine children come from 2 different schools, as we mentioned, in South Carolina, both elementary and high school levels affected here. Now they were out of school for about 3 weeks. What are the consequences of all of this?
Ariel, good morning. Significant consequences. What we're seeing is that a community, any community across the country, has to have a certain protective level of vaccination to really stamp out any possibility of a measles epidemic or outbreak. And unfortunately, in many parts of the country, especially the communities that we're talking about, we haven't reached that 92% threshold. Really, that's the critical piece. It's much lower than that in some places, which then allows these types of outbreaks to occur in kindergartens and other school-type settings. The real concern, too, is that if you're unvaccinated, say you're a child, the likelihood that you could end up in a hospital requiring supplemental oxygen and developing measles-related pneumonia, that's very high. It's about 20%. If you're unvaccinated and you're exposed and come down with this illness, it's a very high risk of ending up in the hospital with very serious complications.
That is staggeringly high. Is the protocol after measles exposure different if the child is vaccinated?
Well, if the child is vaccinated, then in some cases, we don't even know if, in many cases across the country, children that are vaccinated might be actually exposed, given that we don't really have a sense of, we think measles might be more widespread than we're testing for it. Exposures happen all the time. But if you're vaccinated, you're highly protected against even developing any sort of symptom, 97% protected against any development of complications from this particular infection. So in many cases, we don't even recognize it. If you're unvaccinated, that's where the quarantine process occurs. And I think we have a few full-screen graphics for your audience here. What should you do if you're somebody out there and you just don't know your measles vaccine status? I get this question, Ariel, all the time. What should you do? You do not need a vaccine if you were born before, say, 1957, because we think measles was widespread prior to 1957. If you have a known 2-dose vaccine history, known prior measles, again, most born before 1957, we presume we're exposed to it already and have natural immunity. Or if you have known titers, antibody titers against this specific infection. In that case, we think you're covered. But you should speak to your medical provider in a few instances, especially if you don't have documentation of 2 doses of the measles vaccine. If you're just not aware of your status or if you have any questions, you should speak to your medical provider. And honestly, if you just don't know, and if this is all too complicated, it's not in any way harmful to just get a measles booster shot and have a conversation with your medical provider.
And we have seen falling vaccination rates across the country. We have seen an uptick in those exemptions for vaccines for the MMR. What are the real world impacts? Is that what we're seeing here? We're finally starting to see that bear out. Is this part of that trend?
Yes, absolutely. And it's not just limited, Ariel, to measles. We're seeing this with whooping cough. We're seeing this with other vaccine-preventable illnesses. We're probably going to see it with flu and, to some cases, COVID-19, where we don't have community protection and these vaccine-preventable illnesses that we haven't really had to talk about for our lifetime. Now we're talking about it.
And as you mentioned, 97% efficacy is very high there. Dr. Vin Gupta, thank you so much for your insights. That does it for us today. I'm Ariel Reshef reporting here from New York. Chris Jansing picks up our coverage right now. Have a great day.